Good evening and welcome to the RSA. I'm Jennifer Johnston, your host for this evening. This event forms part of the Genesis Foundation's Genesis Conversations series and also marks, very excitingly, the 25th anniversary of the Genesis Foundation. This evening will begin with a preview of a screening of a new opera, Angels on the Underground, composed by Will Todd, who is here, and with a libretto by Sally Gardner, who is also here. After the screening, there'll be a panel conversation and a question and answer session, followed by drinks, if any of you would like to join. Just a quick warning, if this opera contains themes which are quite sensitive, so any of you who have issues in the realm of self-harm and so on may want to think twice about sitting through it, but it's entirely up to you. If you do need to leave, indicate to a member of staff and they will show you how to get out of the room. Now, I'm delighted to introduce John Studzinski, banker and philanthropist. He established the Genesis Foundation in 2001, since when it has supported programs that nurture the careers of outstanding emerging artists in the UK, enabling them to develop professional skills and experience and gain access to mentors and valuable networks. Please welcome John, who is going to say a few words before we watch Angels on the Underground.
Thank you very much. I'm having been focused for the last 25 years on nurturing young artists and trying to bring some of the challenges of entering the creative industries into a broader social mainstream. I'm really pleased that we can have a Genesis conversation tonight about Angels on the Underground. Personally, I'm mesmerized by the role that angels play in all of our lives as mentors, messengers, and guardians. But I'm also more focused on how art and the creative process can shine a bright light and encourage debate and discussion on very tough issues. And the issues we're going to grapple with in this incredibly powerful film with this libretto by Sally Gardner, which has layers and layers of insight, and the music by a long-standing Genesis partner, Will Todd, I think you'll find very powerful. My rule of thumb is let the creative process speak for itself. So with that, I hate talking heads talking about a piece of art before the audience sees it. So with that, I hope you find the film very stimulating. Thank you.
wasn't aware of how I felt. After all we've been through, it's always her point of view.
Have fun before it's too late, she said to me, before the accident.
It's always her point of view. It's always her point of view.
My mind in place. I waited online for ages. I wouldn't see you. I'm only a number. It's just repeats catchphrases.
Oh, when my life
And I
becomes
said to
so
her,
humdrum,
"Oh, my
I
days,
hardly recognize myself
that must
these
be a
days.
joke.
Where did
A
my
joke.
dreams go?
Oh, my days.
Give him a coin. Damn, I don't have one. You see, no one has loose change. Not these days.
The interview went well. No, that's a lie. I did my best. Not qualified enough. Not presentable enough.
All these homeless young men are out of work actors, that's
Everyone's
all.
going too far.
Last week there was another one on the line.
No one sees
A
me.
tragedy. No one can save me.
I did my best.
And now I'm late, damnation. And this is the wrong station. I'm glad he is no son of mine.
I'm so glad.
Here I stand, an angry young man, lost, adrift and underground, buried before I'm dead, ashes, ashes are the dreams inside my head. You think me unlike your son, a fool, a troubled boy who failed at school. My life not worth the board, the chalk. No, I don't want your pity, don't want your talk. Yes, you who had the world spilled at your feet, you do not see me, your love, your hate complete. But I am all your sons, a child of Christ. He weeps for this broken paradise. Yes, have your tickets, play your role. the graveyard of worn-out souls. The graveyard of worn-out souls.
This is the young man I have told you about. He talks to me, always has. And now he sees me not, and now he sees me not. He asks me, am I just useless? A useless train of thought.
You are filled with empathy, of which I have none. Angel of death, I am here to take a mother's son, a father's son, a grandson. My job is to sort it out, sort what needs to be done. And there's always another, and another, and another. It is a murder on the living, those left behind, and there's always another, and another, and another.
He wants to know if you see his fight. He who holds a candle so starved of air.
No, I am here to sort it, to sort it. The chill train rumbles, that infernal snake, slithering on its electrical lines to Hades' endless tunnels. It's not for us to judge his fate. I am a silent servant to the cause. Someone has to sort it. That's what I do. I sort it. That's all.
Then what relevance have we if in his solitude we cannot bring him light? We may be invisible to mankind, but we shape their destinies through unseen hands. We guide, we guard, we mend all the weight of their words, the weight of their words, their whole
I'm home, away from Cardboard City. Lady, please see me. I'm all alone, I'm homeless, I'm hungry. Just enough for a ticket, for a bed for the night, for a meal, for a tea, for a place to shelter, for an address so that death will find me. I don't do drugs, no, I'm not a beggar. I just fell through the cracks of forever. To save me. And one toy, an angel, she gave me.
And his grandmother prayed to this young man stands on the rim of life, in a world where hearts ache silently. Hearts ache silently. Hearts ache silently. The echoes of loneliness I hear. Hearts ache
what use is that to me? What happened to your wing? Did you lose it at a fancy dress party? Thank you for noticing me. Take the money, it's not much. It might get you a cup of tea. I won't need it now. I'm going home.
Across the
That your train rumbles, that infernal snake slithering on its electric lines through Hades' endless tunnels.
I have tried to save them, but the churches are empty. They search for angels in amongst the algorithm. Lord. We travel with eyes open and hearts closed. This is just another moment. Switch off to the other way. I have tried to save them, but the churches are empty. They search for
I am here to take a mother's son, a father's son, a grandson. My job is to sort it, what needs to be done.
I have tried to save them. I have tried to save.
Hades sorrows, Hades sorrows.
I have tried to save them.
Endless tunnels, the tube train rumbles.
They search for angels.
They search for angels. They search for angels. Here once I stood, I'd given up on hope, so I believed, given up for good. The demons in my mind, they baited me to the edge of that yellow line. It was then that my angel saved me.
Each one of us has in our soul a color, and
out of order.
You can sit where it is, whichever order you like.
Sit next to John.
So, I mean, I'm sure, like me, you're incredibly moved by what you just saw. What I'd like to do is now talk to our distinguished panel about the impact of what they've just seen, but also in terms of the creating of this really beautiful piece of work. First of all, John, this is your commission, your idea. What drove you to commission Will to create this piece?
Yeah, no, it's interesting to talk about your faith, and challenging often to talk about your faith. But I've always had a strong relationship with angels and a strong conviction about the power of God. And in juxtaposing that with I started working with homeless people when I was 6 years old, and then of course here in London, I've worked with them since we founded the Passage with Basil Hume, now over 40 years ago, and it was just it's been such a eye-opening experience, particularly on Christmas Day, when you try to get someone to dial their mobile phone and call their son or their daughter or their father or their mother, and realize, and it's interesting because I didn't really talk at all about this to Sally, but so much about that role in life is about being seen and identity. So I'm very moved, and I've always felt this is an area, particularly as we've witnessed in the last 5 to 10 years, and of course Jonathan Haidt's great book, The Age of Anxiety, and the role of social media, adolescent suicide, mental illness, this whole area of self-esteem, which I've always been focused on, just needs much, much more attention.
Before we talk to our distinguished composer, Will, can Sally be given a microphone, please? Yeah. Well, that was well planned. This is, as a librettist, quite a daunting task to be given a subject like this, and presumably given a brief, although some free rein. How did you go about creating the libretto for this opera?
Well, it's happened twice with John, and I have to say, John mentioned this, and as he was talking, this image of this whole idea came to me. And it's very rare that ever happens, that I get a whole sort of... And then we sort of played around with it, we got a bit lost, to be honest. But then I absolutely was convinced about these angels being see it, say it, sorted. I go up and down on the train all the time, so I thought they had to be these 3 angels. And really working with Will, and it began to take off. I've worked in theatre before, and that's how it came about. And I wrote it a bit like Bernard Shaw, who wrote massive stage directions all over the place. But I wrote the whole thing out and then felt very embarrassed by it. I said, do whatever you want to do with it. It's okay. But, yeah.
It's a great piece of work. And then, Will, coming to you, you've received a libretto, beautifully constructed, as we've seen. What's your process?
Actually, I loved all the stage directions in there, because actually what was very important to me was Sally telling me as much as she could about the story she wanted to tell. And our initial conversations were all about that, delving into it. So actually the pictures you described were very helpful to me. I think as a theatre composer, it's very helpful if you know what the stage picture is supposed to be. So actually I encouraged that, and I said, oh yeah, just describe it to me, like the glass section at the end. I said, describe that to me. And you said, well, it's that everyone has a colour, and it could make up a varied stained glass window. And you actually said we can use perspex to be a thing. So that was again very powerful for me. The biggest most important rule I had for it was trying to make sure that there was, strong melody in the piece, because, of course, it's an utterly humbling subject matter and a humbling story. And as a composer, all you can really offer, I think, is to try and give sort of power to the words that have been supplied. So with the young man, this kind of beautiful music is very important. And also from working on pieces over the years, some of which have had sort of darker subject matter, being aware that actually melody is a great power in the musical contract with an audience. And even though we're dealing with darkness, trying to make sure that the music is supplying us with emotion so that we actually invest in these very powerful words. And I juxtaposed that with the kind of electronics as well, and using the that was actually my starting point, was getting lots of different recordings of sounds of trains and all sorts of things, and the buskers, and then it sort of grew out of that first sound world. But it's been a joy working with Sally.
You make a great team. Coming to you, Bobby, this subject matter is really current, actually, in terms of what's out there and people to read, and discussions about issues like toxic masculinity and so on. How do you see this marriage between what is a traditional art form, which has not lost its relevance, despite what Timothy Chalamet might like to say, and this portrayal of a young man in real need?
I was wondering when the first Timothy Chalamet reference.
Sorry, I can't help it. I'm sorry.
It's interesting because it is a very current topic, obviously, but I don't want to assume, but I see shades of the greatest film of all time, It's a Wonderful Life, here, and my first novel, Isaac and the Egg, which has a kind of similar premise. It's about a man who is on the verge of suicide and gets visited, but it's not a guardian angel. In his case, it's a 2-foot-tall talking egg. That was very much inspired by It's a Wonderful Life, and obviously that is not a current film, and I think it is something that has a real resonance for a reason, because it's a very hopeful story, and I think we are kind of reaching out for hopeful stories at the moment. There's a lot of talk about male mental health, but I don't think it's necessarily a new issue, a thing that we weren't talking about 10, 20 years ago. I think we've just kind of got a new language to talk about it, and I think a new sensitivity with which to talk about it, which is a very nice thing. Something I really love seeing nowadays, especially in something like that that beautiful piece, is men being allowed to be depressed for no reason, which sounds like a straight, or like, there is like backstory, but I had a conversation with I did an open book on Radio 4 with a brilliant Scottish poet called Michael Pedersen, and he said something that always stuck with me, which is men only talk about their feelings if they have a prop, and the example he used is a football or a pint of beer. And I think similarly, when talking about mental health in art with men, it's often like they have to, like in my book, his wife's died and he's depressed for that reason. And I think something that I notice more in art nowadays is that men can be vulnerable and be sad, and that can be part of their character and part of the kind of many things that make them up. So I think that's something that has changed. It's something that I do really like seeing more in art nowadays.
Rebecca, you are very much of the art world, the visual art world, but also you play a role in terms of mentoring not just young artists, but young curators and so on. How much of a role do you see the need for encouraging young men out of their shell and into a working environment like yours?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I think mentoring, people may not be aware, but the Royal Academy has a postgraduate school. We have about 50 students. It's a 3-year course. And what you're doing is inviting people in to, in effect, take themselves apart. They come in having reached a certain level in their artistic career, and we have them for 3 years, and so you sort of take them apart, which makes them incredibly vulnerable. You have to be very, very brave to do that. But then you have to give them the promise and the hope that within that 3 years, you can put them back together again and launch them into the world. And it's an incredibly rewarding process, which John has very kindly supported, and subsequently now with young curators, because again, entering the art world is not easy, especially trying to live in London on modest wages and start on the curatorial ladder. And we've had 2 for 2 years, and it has been wonderful watching them fly, basically, given the opportunity.
Coming back to you, John, I mean, the Genesis Foundation is now 25 years old. You must be incredibly proud of its achievements in supporting emerging artists. Just turning back to the question of this evening, can art save us? Do you think that for those in society who are feeling a little bit uneasy or unhappy, that art is the route that they could choose to take that might bring them out of themselves and offer them a different kind of future than they were thinking about?
Well, let's take a step back from that question. I think we're living in an age where culture and the arts in particular and the creative industries will play a much more dominant role. We're living in an age where we cannot rely on governments, we cannot rely on corporations. So there's a strong desperation, and I think the arts, because of its broad palette in terms of the human condition, the soul, and also raising a whole range of issues and proposing, as the film does, more than one ending and more than one answer. So I think that the faith as well as the creative industries are going to play an increasingly more powerful role in this next phase of civilization. I really do. Over 25 years, we've created an extraordinary network, and the thing the network enables is artists to work in communities, to talk to each other, to engage in mentoring on a single level, but also creating, the work that Harry Christopher's done with our sacred music programs, where you create groups and communities. And those communities or those cohorts support each other not just at one point in time, but really almost as an organic entity. And that's really what I think, that's the most important thing about the creative industries. People need to spend more time. We've convened so many groups of creatives in a room, and Harriet, who runs the Genesis Foundation, and I would be shocked at the number of creatives who we would assume they all knew each other. And I say, of course you know this person, of course you know that person. They don't. But then they all get together. A, they have so much to say. B, they're actually very good at listening to each other because they have a very strong willingness to be empathetic. So now I think that's an important role that the creative industries plays to support itself. It really does, because it's not just about money, but the talent is there. But it does need a stronger foundation of sort of on the human level.
Yeah, and a stronger foundation from government wouldn't go amiss, let's face it. I think we should take some questions. I've got a range of questions in my iPad here, but does anybody in the live audience wish to ask any of the panel a question? If you raise your hand, if there is anybody. Oh, silence. The gentleman there.
That was great, particularly the chorus. I love choruses. The Greeks loved choruses, didn't they? I'm the chairman of the Poetry Society in the UK. The National Poetry Competition will be announced next week. You can't bribe me into telling you who the winner is. I just want to slightly, John, change the centre of gravity to the word creativity rather than creatives and the creative industry. We have stanza groups all over the country, people who are writing poetry, and they form a community, as you said. Social media has helped us in one of my old worlds, running, to develop Park Run and all the other things. I do think that, social capital generation in terms of John Putnam's book, Bowling Alone, is actually alive and well. I do think there's a question to the panel is about artificial intelligence. I'm trying to get people in the industry to actually talk about it. We haven't yet got tripped up in the Poetry Society or the Forward or the Eliot by somebody putting in a poem that was actually partly written by Claude or ChatGPT. But it won't be long.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it won't be long.
And they will say, aha, got you. So that conversation about how we develop our creativity with the industry and with digital, I'd like to hear you about that.
John?
Well, I use artificial intelligence a lot in my day job. And what it does do, and I'm sure a number of people in this room use it, it really allows you to think and provide a broader menu of ideas. But it doesn't necessarily enable you to take risk or to do something outrageous. As a matter of fact, it almost prevents you from doing something outrageous or to doing something challenging. So I go back to Anthony Storr's book, Creativity and the Art of Isolation. And I do think there's a lot, we're talking about communities and artists mentoring each other, but I also think the actual creative process is perhaps the other end of the barbell, which has a lot to do with being alone and being isolated and having a very individual window on the world. The risk of AI, I think, is it might create a homogeneity which isn't necessarily going to create something new. AI does do a very good job. I love to do things like the other day I went to see the Maxim Gorky play, Summerfolk. And I was curious beforehand about what if Gorky and Chekhov were having a conversation about these three topics, what they would say to each other. So I actually asked that question, and that all came out. Of course, it was totally fabricated by AI, but then I read that before I went to the play. And it gave me a strong perspective on what I liked and what I didn't like about the play. So it helped me prepare. But I don't think, if you look at the great creative processes, and it's quite interesting, if you look at the history of opera, and this, I'm going to say something very strong, but I'm quite backed up well by De Ponte and Hofmannsthal. The best operas, and the only really seriously good operas, don't start unless you have a very powerful libretto. You need a strong dramatic voice, and only from the dramatic voice can the composer actually take that and turn it into something powerful. So I think, is AI ever going to be able to do that? When you look at those relationships, those human relationships between Hofmannsthal and Strauss, or Mozart and De Ponte, those, and they also are overlaid by political nuances, whether it was the French Revolution or the relationship of men and women or whatever. So I'm never say never, but I also feel very strongly, if you look at Leonardo da Vinci, the science of art and the art of science, and there's now a recent discussion about the whistle jacket. Both of those are good examples. Leonardo da Vinci was profound at what he did because he really was a scientist. He took something that was very well documented, but then he then took it to another level. He almost took it to a much higher spiritual level. And I think AI will allow us to do that. I really do. And maybe I'm more hopeful, but I think it will. I really do.
Question over there, if we could give a microphone to...
Hi, I'm Elizabeth McKay. I'm the director and CEO of the London Transport Museum and an absolutely passionate lover of opera. I have to tell you, I was welling up here. I found the libretto so moving, possibly because I'd been in a meeting about safety and safety stats all afternoon over at TfL. But so many questions, but what's your ambition for this production? Where do you see this going? Because I think it's phenomenal.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That means a great deal. And just picking up on the AI point, I thought that was a good point you made, John, about the sort of mess we got into at the start of the project, trying to find how to do the story and what was the most important bits to try and bring out. And sometimes, AI is extraordinary. It gives you access to so many things. Sometimes as artists, not having so many choices is actually the best thing. So it may be in the future perhaps that artists find themselves having to sort of make a judgment about where they stop looking in AI. Going to the point about the piece, and I mentioned that because that was part of what we were talking about, what is this piece, what are we trying to create? Clearly, when we performed it at the Maria Studio with Harry directing, the piece was actually 53 minutes long, and there are some sequences that have gone, and it was a wonderful piece live. When I came to the edited film, which was beautifully made, I decided, for the reasons of film time, if you like, I made quite a lot of cuts, so I cut 18. I took about a third of time out, which I think was a good choice for film. We actually don't really know, is the answer. I mean, clearly it's always hard to produce, it's expensive to produce live opera with professionals. So having a film version is a wonderful resource, and I'm delighted we have that, because I think the messages from John via Sally, this dialogue that they had initially coming into the story, it has a version which is highly flexible, that could be shown in many contexts, and at 35 minutes I feel it's not a barrier to concentration. I'm sure many people in this room have good concentration spans for live arts, but not everybody does. 35 minutes is actually quite a long time, isn't it? So live performances would be great. For me, I would love younger audiences to see this and for it to be a discussion point. There's at the start of the film, there's that stack where Sally's written all those little things about the sort of minutiae that people are thinking about. I've always thought that that's a wonderful piece of workshopping available where we get people to, what's your little thing? And then you just turn it into a word stack in a room, make a bed of sound, the repetition of people's different ideas and concerns as a platform into watching something like that. So I think there's lots of things that could be done in an exciting way for that. But please tell us what you think we should do to do with it. But I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Plenty, I'm sure. The lady in the middle of the left.
Hi, thank you. It was really enjoyable watching the piece, and I really appreciated the thought that had gone into the commission. It made me reflect on the performers in the work, but then also thinking about, can art save us? Who's the us in many ways? And I do a lot of work around EDI, equality, diversity, inclusion in the arts and creative industries. And what we're seeing is the slow decline in any progress that's been made around EDI, and an increasing lack of diversity about who engages with the arts, who is creative, who is given space to be creative, who is nurtured. I think there's an enormous assets in supporting emerging curators, producers, performers, But what we're finding is that by mid-career, they're gone. They reach leadership and have so much pressure put on them, they can't sustain it, and often, sadly, are almost set up to fail. We've seen a major institution, the Barbican, make redundant one of their highest ranking arts directors. And so this is a real challenge in terms of who are we nurturing, how are we nurturing them, how are we sustaining them, how do we continue to sustain them? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Anybody?
Rebecca?
I think we've got to start really, really early, and it's catastrophic that arts have been taken out of state schools. I know it's supposed to come back, but it needs to come back in a really meaningful way. So right from the very beginning, every child knows that the arts belong to them, because, I mean, the Royal Academy is a very grand looking place, and sadly there are people who think this is not for me. And you've got to work really hard to break down those barriers if they've been set in from childhood. So that would be my plea to the government, is please get the arts back into school. Because the only thing, I mean, this wonderful piece was actually an opportunity for us to imagine, for us to enter into the lives of somebody else. And children need to be allowed to be imaginative from a very early age. I think that will save us if we can do that.
Bobby?
It might be a bit of a tangent, but whenever I kind of think about access to the arts and who kind of gets to create, I think about COVID. The books, I wrote my first book during COVID. I know so many authors who started their careers because they wrote a book during COVID, because they could, they had time. And I think that sounds like a strange thing to say, but I think it was like time is a luxury that not a lot of people have. I think it's an amazing feat when people do write books around full-time jobs and childcare and stuff like that, but it's very, very hard to do. So I think you have a real glut of people making it in the creative industries who have luxuries, time being one of them, and money being an obvious other one. And I think you only look at the actors who tend to make it big from this country and the bands who tend to make it big from this country at the moment, and you realise that there's an enormous class divide. So I think anything that can be done to nurture, to give people the space to be able to create and to get into the creative industries would be amazing. I always look to Ireland as an amazing example of somewhere that, obviously I approach everything looking at it from a kind of, from a book's perspective, and also from being a male author. All of the best young male authors writing right now are Irish. And it's just because...
Apart from you mean?
Apart from me, of course, yeah. The Irish government really nurture art, and there are grants, and there are just things done to kind of celebrate that country has a brilliant literary history, and we have an amazing artistic history in this country, but unfortunately we haven't tended recently to have governments who recognise that and nurture that. And I think you look at so much of the most amazing art that was coming out of our country, I guess like 20, 30 years ago, and it just feels like those same people wouldn't have the same opportunities now. So, I don't know how to change it, but I hope we can.
I mean, in my working life, a big portion of it has been community music and youth music, and I came through the Durham County Music Service into my music, and I'm the chair of the charity that supports them now to fundraise to try and keep that music service as alive and the opportunities as they were when I went through it. But it needs a lot of energy needs to be brought. But what I do find, of course, everybody here, there'll be many people here who've had this experience. When you have a project, we did a project in Bradford with the Royal Ballet and Opera North, and I wrote the music for we had 35 primary schools, and it was a writing project, and then I created songs and we put on a performance, and it was breathtaking. And that was, when I'm thinking about can art save us, maybe it can't, can it? When I experienced that project, I was thinking, yeah, absolutely, because there were kids who came from completely different sort of cultural backgrounds, not used to performing on stage necessarily, who went through a whole process and then sang these songs with amazing power at the end of the performance. So, you know, moments like that are very powerful. It's a funding issue, that, isn't it?
And in fact, Ireland have put in place a universal income for artists. And it's incredibly impressive, but I think the chances of that happening over here are sadly very slim. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. But I'd like to thank my amazing panel, if you'd like to put your hands together for their contributions. Do join us for drinks downstairs in the Benjamin Franklin room. Please also visit the RSA's website. On there you'll find details of forthcoming events, and there is another opera-related event which British Youth Opera are doing quite soon, although I think tickets may be low in number, so get on with it if you want to book in to come to that. And also, if you want to learn more about the fellowship community here, you can apply to become a fellow on the website. And all it remains is for me to wish you a very good evening, and thank you very much for coming.